So the new car's here. I've given you a little sneak peek of what it is. I'll show you later on in the video exactly what it is and why I've bought it, what's wrong with it, what needs fixing. But as you can probably tell, we're back with the Audi because it's still not quite right. And when I drive it, it was going so well, it runs fine, but it just keeps flagging up this engine management fault, and obviously I can't get it MOT'd until that's sorted. So we're going to pull that apart. So there's one or two things that it can be, I think, at this point. So I'll show you. I've got a timing chain and timing chain tensioner. I know the belt's been done, but I'm going to have to check to see if it's been done right, if it's in time or if it's not. I'll also try and explain to you what I'm doing, what I mean by timing it up properly, because there's a belt and a chain on this engine, so it's a little strange, but it's an Audi, so what do you expect? So I'll pull it all apart now and see what we can find. So when we're talking about timing, basically what we have to do is get to the camshafts. Now, on an engine like this, it has two cams overhead, called a double overhead cam. One cam runs the exhaust valves, and one cam runs the intake valves. And these need to be perfectly synchronised with the engine itself and each other to get fuel in and exhaust gases out, etc. at the exact right time. Anything other than the exact right time, the engine will run rough, or worst case scenario, if it's too far out, it'll just completely destroy the engine. So to get to these cams, basically we have to take off the rocker cover, all the ancillaries, things like that. It's a 4-cylinder engine, so 4 spark plugs, 4 coil packs to control the spark plugs, just loads of covers, bits and pieces like that. We need to set the fuel pump off, etc. So we'll get that done, and then I'll explain to you what's going on with the cams themselves. This car just gets better and better, honestly. You won't believe what I've just had to pull out of on top of the cams. It's I'll show you. Someone's literally tried gluing the rocker cover back together with super glue or silicone or something, and it's just fallen apart inside and landed where the cams are. This huge piece of plastic rattling about in there, which really is not good. I'll show you where it's come from. Now this is the rocker cover, and this is part of like it's the PCV system, so it releases out of these ports crank pressure, but you can see there someone's tried using silicone or something just to glue it back in. Quite obviously never going to work. So that's more repair work we're going to have to do to the car. So it's just never ending, this thing, honestly. Every time I think it's done, it's something else pops up. But we'll get it done. So next up, now the rocker cover's off, we can take this part off, which is the fuel pump. You might have seen in the other videos where I replaced the cam follower for that fuel pump. And also the variable valve timing solenoid, which is just at the back of this cover. That's something else that I thought this problem might be, so we replaced it, but it didn't help. But things like that, it can't hurt to replace them at the end of the day, so it's no problem. So now what we're trying to do is just basically get this end cover off and expose this part, which is the timing chain. Now this pin basically goes into it's the chain tensioner, and basically by putting this pin in, it stops the tensioner springing back and tightening the chain up, and this gives you a little bit of slack to play with. And the goal here is to take this part off. This is the variable valve timing, but in this car's fashion, this bolt's been played with before and it's completely knackered, so I'm going to have to go about this differently and do it the hard way, but it's no problem, it can still be done. I'll show you that now. Now when I say the hard way, I mean To do this the normal way, you wouldn't have to take this off. This is the cam bridge and it basically holds down the camshafts. But because I can't get the end of the exhaust cam off, I've actually got to physically take out the intake cam, which is that part that I've just taken out, to be able to get the chain off, to get the new chain back in. So that's the chain out, that's the old chain tensioner out, and then basically the way we'll put it back together, I'm going to have to put the chain back on and then insert the intake cam into it while it's all loose. The reason this is a difficult way of doing it is because you really have to guess where the timing is. Next up is to figure out if the engine, and make sure that it is at exactly top dead centre, it's called. This is basically when piston 4 and 1 are at the very top of their stroke. This is the only position that you can have the engine to get the timing aligned and get the camshaft to run exactly in tune with each other and the engine itself. Once you've got your top dead centre, you can basically set your cam on the chain and then bolt back down the cam bridge. Check that the timing's right once the chain's tight, if that makes sense, with this tool. And if this is right, this should slide down into the engine, which it does nice, so that's actually right. Now this was the second attempt. I didn't bother showing you the first attempt, but it was just a little bit of trial and error. But now we know this is timed perfectly, and that is timed perfectly. So next is to take it back apart again, take the cam bridge off it, ready for the actual fit that it's going to stay there. And basically when you put the cam bridge back down to stay down, it needs a gasket to stop oil leaking, and that's done by an RTV sealant. So that's next. So when you bolt this part back down, along with a lot of other parts like the actual head bolts and things like that, first of all they have to be torqued to the exact right tension, but also they have to be tightened in a sequence to avoid you bending any parts of the engine, to kind of even out the distribution of force as you bolt it down. So once that's all done properly, a quick check of the timing again just to make sure it's still right, which it is, and then it's a case of just putting everything back together again. Right then, it's back together, so fingers crossed. I mean, I'm confident it's going to start no problem, but it's whether or not this problem's been fixed. I know the timing's better now, definitely a lot better. It looked like it were at least a tooth out. That might be due to the chain stretching, who knows, but it's been put right now, and it shouldn't leak oil either. So let's give it a start, see what it does. So after driving it this time, I think we're there. I think we've got it. It drives fine, no engine management lights, so absolutely happy days with that. Now, please hit the subscribe button and the like button, because some of these cars that I'm going to be buying are much of the same, if not worse. And let's not forget where this car came from, what it's been through. Been on fire, I bought it crash damaged, we've repaired it once, twice, 3 times to get to where we are now, so we'll just have a quick reminder of that and then I'll show you the next car. back to the start. This entire project really is about trying to make money out of a £500 car, and the first one was a Golf, which did really well. Quite a project. It used to leak water and all kinds of problems, but it was a good project. The Ford car, not so great, but still worth a couple of £100 profit. Next, the Fiesta, that did really well. Beautiful little car in the end, this one. Obviously we're here now with the Audi. Now all these cars are making money, not as much as I'd like obviously, because I'm spending a bit too much on them and a bit too much time, but this brings us to this car, the one that we've just purchased. Now all these cars got us to around about the 5,000 mark, and I got a little bit giddy on the auction site and ended up paying 6 for this one. This car I have gone slightly over budget with, I think, so I've just kind of had a bit of a guess of the budget I had, and I'm pretty sure this has gone over a little bit, maybe £1,000 over, but I'll adjust all that later. This car, basically, I wanted a car, because obviously the last few cars that I've done have all been more or less all bodywork and stuff like that, so I wanted something with a level of mechanical damage, and I've certainly found one in this car. I'll show you why. So what we've got is a 2017 BMW X1. It's a 2 litre diesel. Now this has got, I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, it's spun an engine bearing, one of the rod bearings, so it's banging like mad. Now while we have a quick look round it, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll show you in a second just what noise this engine's making. And hopefully I'll see you next time when we dig into this and see if the engine's salvageable or whether it's toast. Either way, we're going to get into it and try to figure it out.